I'm going to start the recording as we are recording this session so that those who may not be able to join us can hear this after the fact. We have an extremely packed agenda today to review some of the best practices and make sure that they become consistent, rinse and repeat practices. Also some new items, particularly on how we advertise, different things with iCIMS on our candidates, and also Indeed as a real big topic. And so I want to first and foremost introduce Scott Erickson, who's going to take us at the top of this agenda here, and then we'll move through with other presenters as well, Curt Shaner and Kristen Medlin, and perhaps a few others. And as you have questions, just some housekeeping to put them in the chat, and we'll try to get those answers as we go along or pause for answers. And please remember to just keep your phones on mute. And if you have questions at the end, then you can take yourself off mute and we'll answer those as well. So thanks everybody for joining. And this is going to be a great session. And hopefully we're able to get through all the agenda items. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Maria. Well, it's great to be with everyone again. And I hope you all are having a productive recruitment day. As Maria mentioned, this is our third forum and it's being recorded as the previous two. And so they can all be found in the recruitment toolkit, which is available to you from your iCIMS dashboard. So for this month, we thought we would just kind of hit the pause button on introducing any new concepts. So a recent audit of our job postings has revealed some nice progress. We're definitely slowly moving away from advertising job descriptions in favor of more compelling job postings. We're also seeing a nice uptick in candidate applications as a result, which is all good. That said, we still have a fair amount of what I would kind of refer to as housekeeping to do on our requisitions and our job postings. And we all feel that this task is critical and really should be a priority for your HR department this month. In some cases, and you may not even be aware, your position is not even posted on Indeed due to a simple job title policy violation that we're going to review as part of our forum today. So before we spend extra resources on advanced recruitment, let's really try to give our free posts and job alerts a fighting chance. So with that, let's head over to iCIMS and we'll revisit, in particular, the job title and posting description recommendations. So I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see my lovely iCIMS dashboard. So what I'm going to do is take us through kind of creating a rec from scratch. And the purpose of this is that you'll see that because the job titles are a direct feed from Lawson, we have this initial handicap when we're creating a new rec from scratch. And as you can see, these are really not recognizable or searchable job titles that you would want to have posted on your website, the UHS Careers website, and obviously external job boards. So if I was, let's say, posting an MHT, and this is the one of the titles that comes over from Lawson, again, this is not an industry standard job title. This is not something that a candidate is going to go onto Indeed and they're going to think, oh, you know what, I'm looking for a unit clerk / MHT non-degreed position. So it's important that we take this extra step, which is sometimes missed. And thankfully, the remedy is really an easy fix. So on this details tab, all you want to do is put your cursor in the job title field and then enter in the job title that's going to replace the one from Lawson. And as you can see, this job title should be, number one, generic. It should be simple. And more importantly, it should be keyword search friendly. So it's important that we avoid using just abbreviations. For example, we'll see oftentimes just MHT or just RN. So what you want to do here, like I entered, you want to list the full title and then include the abbreviation after in parentheses. And this combination will increase your visibility for candidate searches. The other piece that is really important that we're seeing is that you do not include any sign-on bonus language or dollars in the job title. And the reason for this is around the Indeed posting policy. And I want to pull up the email that was shared as a reminder that really gives us kind of the do's and don'ts around posting etiquette, in particular on the job title. So this refers to all of the organic or free postings that come right from our requisition. So when you open a requisition and you post it externally, that free post that we get, that's what this policy applies to. This policy does not apply to sponsored jobs. So if you're going to think about doing a sponsored job on Indeed, you have a lot more flexibility to add additional information in the job title, including any sign-on bonus or retention bonus information that you think might help draw candidates. So as we can see on this email, they kind of do's and don'ts. What they say in terms of what not to include, Indeed refers to this as clickbait. So any additional information beyond what would be in a normal job title. And think about it like this. If you were giving somebody your business card, it would just be your job title. It wouldn't have 11 to 7 shift on the Freedom, unit. It wouldn't have any specific language that only we would know or you would know within your hospital. So think about it that way. That's kind of a good practice, or what you would read at the top of a job description. So things to avoid: hashtags, any symbols, definitely sign-on bonus information, anything that refers to either the language itself, sign-on bonus, or the dollar amounts that would be payable. Anything around retention bonuses, commissions, even shift can sometimes cause an issue. So what you want to do instead is, again, keep it generic, keep it simple. So for our RNs, we have some recommendations here. And the top one is probably the best one: registered nurse, and then parentheses RN. Because again, this combination is really going to help maximize the return on candidate searches. And in speaking with Indeed, even as early as last week, they were saying that they have the analytics, obviously, around candidate searches, and it kind of varies by geography. In some geographies, in some parts of the country, candidates are searching RN. In other parts of the country, they're typing in registered nurse. If you combine the two, you're capturing both, both folks in both segments. So really, really important. If you violate the policy, in particular with the sign-on bonus information, Indeed is not going to post that job. And so you're going to miss out entirely on getting your position on that job board, and also triggering those job alerts, because it's not getting posted. It's not triggering those job alerts. Now, I want to point out another area that I'm seeing in terms of job postings. Again, this just kind of comes from some Q&A that we've been doing. And I'm going to take us to the toolkit, which we unveiled, I think, last month in May. And again, this is going to be a living, breathing area. We're going to be adding resources and tools to this. So in the job postings folder, we have the job posting guideline. And we referred to this back in April. And I think it, like Maria said, I'm gonna borrow that rinse and repeat. I'm going to use that rinse and repeat. This is what we need to do. So what I'm seeing frequently is that sometimes we are leading with the description of UHS, and then we include the hospital profile. So when we think of our job candidates, they are most likely not applying to UHS. They're applying to your hospital. So they're looking for a position with your facility, or in an area, that would include your facility. So it would make more sense to lead with your facility profile. So that's one thing that we typically see. The other thing that we see is that we're still using an outdated UHS description. I'm seeing descriptions that date back to 2017, 18, 19, and 2020. So this guideline has the updated 2021 description that you should be using. And again, this document really is your recipe for success. So it kind of puts everything in order for you in terms of leading with the most compelling information, the information that the candidate wants to learn about first, and then kind of less priority after that. So again, lead with your facility profile. The other thing that's often missing is the link to the hospital's website. This is important because a lot of times job seekers are finding your position on a job board, or maybe they receive a job alert in their inbox. So they're not already on your website. So this gives them a very quick and easy way to get to your website to learn more information, and certainly they can apply from your careers tab. So those are some of the things that we've been seeing. The last trend that I've noticed is around the EEO statement and the notice. I'm seeing that we're using the updated notice, which is great. But what I'm also seeing is that folks are also still including the previous non-solicitation agreement that these two statements actually replace. So it's important that you only have these two and remove anything that's outdated, because that will really greatly reduce the size of your job posting. And that's important because we're trying to keep this nice and tidy for mobile job seekers. So that's another thing I wanted to point out. I think, Maria, you wanted to mention a step that's often missed, which is having your new rec approved, not self-approval, but maybe going through an actual approval process for the purpose of Q&A and proofreading.
Yes, I think it's important to make sure that, as part of our iCIMS system, we do have that tracking on the approvals of our requisitions, making sure that the job descriptions look good, making sure that the titles are clean, as Scott mentioned, but then in the job description, we have a nice advertisement, overview of the job duties, also the place where you can overview a few of the benefits. Some of you asked in the questions, the chat, well, we can't advertise the sign-on bonus. Well, you can and put that in the description as one of the benefits of the position. But as part of our iCIMS process, when you're doing a requisition, prior to that requisition going live, you have the ability to assign an approver. And that's really the quality assurance check to make sure that that hiring manager or your higher level approval takes a look at that job and says, yes, this looks good. This is, thank you, Scott, for bringing that up there, to make sure that, yes, this is what we want out there to advertise for our position. And so we want to make sure that, on the, whenever Scott posts a rec or we post one here from the corporate standpoint, we request that an approver make sure that they check that and approve it. And it's just another way to quality assure that what we're putting out there, because again, these jobs will scrape over to Indeed, Career Builder, Monster, Diversity.com, LinkedIn. So it's really your brand in a lot of cases as well. And so I think it's important that we have that quality step and that we have those folks that are trying to find these candidates for their teams, whether it's nursing or mental health techs or clinical services, whatever it is, that they are looking at the position and saying, yes, this is what I would want on my team. This is how I would advertise this. And I think, that's not just an HR function. That's a leadership team function to make sure that what we're putting out there to the outside world is really what we would want this person to be doing for our facilities. So as you can see, I love that benefits for the DON. You mentioned all the 401k there, the career development, great places to put that there might be a sign-on bonus. For those of you who are in Colorado where you had to list that salary requirement, that can be part of the description. But again, just want to make sure that our titles are very clean, because those are the things from a search engine optimization standpoint, they're picking up the highest profile titles. And so this nice and clean title here is what somebody's going to search if they're looking for a director of nursing position. So thanks.
Hey, Maria, this is Ken. I just wanted to add a quick point. I think that really hit the mark. A lot of the data that we're seeing is, Indeed is our largest resource of candidates flowing in. And when you post your job through iCIMS with a clean title like Director of Nursing, similar to what Scott mentioned, within that first 2 weeks of putting that out there, that job is a free job that we're not paying any dollars towards, but we are getting the most amount of candidates to those jobs within that first 2 weeks. So if we aren't having our positions titled correctly, they're not getting out there for free, we're not getting that applicant flow into our database for current or future use. So it's just critical that we do that. A couple questions came up in the chat regarding titles as well as shift and some sign-on bonus language. So as you can see here, right in your requisition, you'll see where it says shift, day shift. there's some other data points, that automatically pulls over to Indeed. So as a job seeker, if I click on DON, I can see when that shift is directly in the job, right on Indeed. I can see other demographics and other items. What Indeed is trying to do is limit sales organizations from putting things out there or bogus companies putting content on their website. It's really focused on career seekers. So the more that we can be concise and simple with our jobs, the more they're going to get viewed, the more we're going to get free applicants into our system. So that's the best practice. If you are looking to sponsor a job, you are spending dollars towards that job. Indeed gives you a lot more latitude. So that might be a good opportunity if you do sponsor that job to enter some sign-on bonus language or some more specifics as to weed out candidates that might not be interested in that job. That will be helpful to be more specific in that title. Thanks, Maria and Scott.
Perfect. And, I want to add that after you go through the initial housekeeping, so when you pull up your recs, and I urge you to do this over the days ahead, look at all of your open recs and take a look at the job title. And if you find one that is that, that generic one from Lawson, take a few seconds, update it. Once you go through and you get to a point where all of your recs are updated, then when it comes time to open new positions, if you copy that rec that you closed or filled, then you won't need to do that step again, because it's going to copy the smart title that you've already fixed in the requisition. So that copy feature is really nice, because then it will take everything over that you've already updated. So if you think of it that way, once you kind of go through housekeeping on, again, those positions that you're going to fill over and over again, then you're kind of all set. And the same can be said for the description or the body of the posting. All that information won't change that often. So once you get it updated for 2021, that boilerplate is in there, your EEO notice is in there, and you can copy away and really not have any issues. So,
Scott, I think that's great feedback. Do you mind just one thing if you go back in there that's important? Because I think in addition to searchable title, the other most important thing to get you all the free advertisement is what is on that rec as far as when you actually initially posted it. And so in that left-hand side there under Director of Nursing, where you see date approved, that date is what really drives when they go over to those career portals. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because, we want to make sure that we just reinforce requisitions that may be old, won't get us as much free advertising and will go stale. And so even if you post and repost in that source tab, can you just talk a little bit about that briefly to make sure everybody's on the right track?
Yep. So this was a big topic for the first forum. And I think our mindset was, we adopted iCIMS about a year ago. We brought over a bunch of jobs from HR Smart, and a lot of them just continued to just get older and older and older. And we were kind of editing them and refreshing them with the thought that it was creating a new posting and triggering new job alerts. And that was not the case. So with that in mind, we wanted to kind of do some education around, just managing your dashboard, managing your recs. And when you start to see a significant drop off in candidate applicants, so like Ken pointed out, when you first post a position, within the first several days is when you'll get kind of that rush of activity. And a lot of that comes from the free post and the job alerts that are triggered. After you go through that period, you'll have this natural lull, and that might happen in your market. It might be after 30 days. In another market, it might happen after 45 or 60 days. So if you really start to see a drop off, that's probably the time when your position has started to move farther and farther down on the Indeed, search results and other job boards. So at that point, it's a good idea to create a new post, and that's where you would use that copy feature. So you would copy the requisition, post that one, and then the old requisition you would actually cancel. So you would go to your detail tab, you would hit edit, and then at the bottom is where you'll find the question, would you like to cancel this, yes or no? And then you would hit save. So you've done two things. You've closed the old one, and that is no longer posted. and you've created a brand new one that is identical to the previous, and you've been able to post that. So that will get you kind of towards the top again, and it'll send out those job alerts, and that should hopefully get you kind of a second wave of candidate activity. And we've seen this exercise work time and time again. Awesome. So the other recap that we wanted to do is also around last month, and we unveiled the toolkit. And one document in here in particular is the checklist prior to spending dollars. And this really is kind of prior to doing a sponsored post, but it could be, prior to doing additional type of advertising efforts through Shaker, or maybe some other job boards that, would be a pay to post type of scenario. So this document is great. And I love the little check boxes. You can print this and kind of use this as a working document. So this really just kind of brings to the fore all of the very low cost or free sourcing tools that we have at our disposal. And when you look at it all together, there's a lot of really good stuff here. There's some really great tools that can really drive candidates to your position. So we looked at the keyword search through iCIMS. So this is that find a qualified candidates section. So we've gone over this a few times. Then did you look at your older recs? So sometimes if you look at your closed positions, you can find previous applicants that could be good for the new position. You can reach out to them. Have you reached out to your PRN staff and rehires? You can go through rehires. Are there current and former students that have been, had affiliations through your building that you can reach out to? Do make sure you have the, organic posting out there, and that's getting some traction. Then we talked a lot about the Indeed resume. We looked at that yesterday and the benefits of getting an Indeed resume subscription so that you can search their database and reach out to candidates. So that, again, definitely encourage you to get signed up for that. And that is a great tool. I want to spend a little bit of extra time on SkillSurvey Source, which we went over a little bit last month. And in particular, I want to showcase kind of the daily email alerts that we get and make sure that we're taking advantage of this, because this is also a great tool that is becoming more and more relevant as we're adopting SkillSurvey across the system. This is one email that we received. This one came out, I think I got this on Saturday. So this was Saturday's opt-in. And the reason I saved this one is because I was just surprised and excited about the variety of job classes within this particular opt-in. So we've got charge nurses in here. You'll see several social workers. You will see several mental health technicians, and there's even some psychiatrists in here. There's some providers in here. So these are folks that have been references for candidates, and they have decided that they want to opt in. They want to learn about careers with UHS. And so these folks are kind of warm leads. They're not cold call, and they're not applicants yet, but they're in a sweet spot where we can reach out to them, introduce ourselves, and different opportunities with UHS. So I wanted to kind of pose this rhetorical question. How might you engage with a lead from this list? What are some things that you might do if you saw someone on here that really striked your fancy? So perhaps you're in Utah, maybe you're at Provo Canyon, you're looking for a social worker, and you see this Audrey Elsick. How might you engage with Audrey? Well, you can certainly email, and you can give her a call, because if you click on the name and there's her phone number here, so you could introduce yourself and share a link, maybe with the careers on your website. You could search for Aubrey in LinkedIn, and you can connect with her and try to have some messaging, through LinkedIn. You might even look in iCIMS to try to find a previous profile to see if Audrey is in there. You can invite Audrey to an open house if you have one upcoming. So maybe you add her to an email blast that you send out. And then obviously you can text her, try to schedule a time for an introductory call to learn more about her career goals, right? Why did she opt in? What is she looking for? So these are some things that I kind of make part of my daily routine when I get this email, and I'll peruse this and see, hey, do any of these folks kind of line up with the positions that I'm currently working on? Now, some of you might say, hey, Scott, I don't get that email. How do I get that email? Well, I want to show you it's really easy to set up. So I'm logged on to SkillSurvey, and I would go under source, which is the tool that this generates from. And then you want to go to email alert for recruiters. And then all you want to do is make sure you find your name, and it's in alphabetical order by first name. And you want to make sure that your name is selected. And then you would pick how often do you want to receive the alert. I want it every day. I want to see new candidates every day. Maybe if you're really inundated and you're a one-stop, one person HR department, maybe that's a little bit too much. I would say at the least do weekly. Monthly is obviously not too frequent enough. So I would go with daily or weekly at the least, and then all you want to do is then hit save down here at that point, and then you're set, and you'll start to see those emails come in. And again, it's just you kind of make it part of your day. So in the morning, what I'll do is I'll log on to iCIMS, and I will check for any new candidates that have applied, and that's here in the top left. So I actually have one here. So I would navigate to the rec, and I would take a look at this candidate and disposition them accordingly. And then at the same time, I'm also going to check for the email alert from the previous day or that morning. And I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to reach out to any folks that I think could be a good fit for my openings. So I would encourage you to make that part of your daily routine as you are thinking about recruitment. So that was the one piece that I wanted to do there. So now I want to, unless there's anything else, Maria, you wanted to add.
No, thank you so much, Scott. I think that was excellent. Somebody had asked me a direct message that I responded to all, but folks asked about putting shift in the title, which also we would not necessarily recommend that is as part of the title, because it's not necessarily something that if somebody's Googling for positions, and yes, you may have some candidates that apply for a position, didn't read all the way down or didn't even read in your description to see that it was night shift, where you can highlight that. But again, to build your candidate database, you never know that they might not have been interested in that shift, but other shifts that you might have available. So again, the goal is making sure that those titles are highly searchable, the type of titles that people would Google. So with that, I think our next speaker is Curt on the iCIMS candidate bin, unless there were other questions for Scott before we move to that next section. Okay, Curt, take it away if you're okay to do so.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Awesome. Okay. Actually, Maria, can you let me share my screen?
Yes, absolutely. Let me make sure that I set that up for you.
While Maria's giving me access to share my screen, what I wanted to go through is an easy panel to view on your dashboard. And a way to view let's just call them previous applicants that maybe you haven't touched yet, or it was a requisition that was filled or canceled, and there were some individuals that may have been left over in that requisition in various statuses. So let me share my screen here. So I'm just in a random recruiter profile, and everyone who has recruiter or market recruiter access has what we call the candidate by bin status report. This status report dashboard panel is pulling in all of your candidates in their statuses within all of your requisitions. So that's your approved requisitions, that's your filled requisitions, canceled, etc. So when you look at these statuses, if you look at the new submissions, these are people who newly applied to your requisitions that haven't been moved in their status to like resume reviewed and so on. So when you click this bar graph, it's going to take you into the report. And then what you can see is you can see the person, and then you can see the rec status. So in this example, this person, Abigail, applied to a position that was canceled, but she's a new submission within that requisition. So this basically gives you a snapshot and a visual on all of those individuals who applied as a new applicant to a requisition, and then maybe that requisition was filled or canceled, but then maybe that's just, maybe it was an approved requisition, you just haven't gotten to it yet. So making sure that you go through all of these new submissions, and this number is 0 to make sure that all of those people that are coming into those requisitions are being dispositioned correctly, whether that's rejected or moving them on within the process. One thing to keep in mind as to when you move that individual through the disposition process, they do get emails letting them know where they are in the recruiting process. So when you have individuals that are in this new submission, basically they applied to a position, never heard anything. So if the requisition was canceled, they never heard anything that requisition was canceled or even filled. So when you reject them, if you reject them and the position's been filled, they'll get an email notification letting them know that that position has been filled. And then it also encourages them to apply to another position. But the point of this panel is basically to give you a visual on all of your candidates, past and present, as to where they are. So one question that we get a lot is how do I view my previous candidates, or if a requisition was filled or canceled, how do I go back and find those individuals? Well, this is an easy way to do it. So when you're looking at the resume review status, for example, let's just say you filled a position and then you were reviewing resumes. Now you filled that position and you want to go back and look at those individuals to see if they were qualified for something else. If you click this panel, it's going to take you right to those individuals, and then you can sort through them, see what positions they apply to, and maybe revisit some individuals that you looked at before. So when you're looking at the candidate by bin status report, this is essentially all of your requisitions and those candidate statuses. If you have recruiter access or even market recruiter access, we do have the facility candidate by bin status report, and this is pulling in all of your facilities requisitions if you're working with a team of recruiters or HR folks. So you can actually go through and see the individuals that weren't touched in requisitions that aren't yours at your facility. And then same process is if you click on the bar, it's going to take you into that report, and then you can see those candidates and the statuses, the job titles, and the statuses of those requisitions. Same thing to keep in mind is the incomplete. So basically the incomplete funnel in as an incomplete when they didn't, let's just say, complete the employment application or the application process. So when you're looking at these folks, you can look at the resume, but if you go to the requisitions that they applied to, and this is just a little side note, so this is a closed requisition, but you can actually see what that person didn't do within the application process by clicking this little application icon. So if you have a bunch of incompletes and you're like, well, why are they incomplete? You can click this icon and then see what they didn't complete within the application process and maybe reach out to them to encourage them to complete that process. So. That's it from my section. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and we can get to them at the end.
Thanks so much, Curt. Now up, Kristen Medlin with a great topic on we're hiring in constant contact. So Kristen, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to share my screen as well. Here we go. All right, so our corporate social media marketing team just recently sent out communication to the field, to the business development and marketing directors, just regarding using social media for recruitment purposes. And I just wanted to highlight one part of that slide deck. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We can send this out to the HR directors after the call just for further reference, but this is a template that they created that can be used to send out with your facility's constant contact account. So there's two options here. The first has just a little bit of difference in the graphics, and you can choose which positions that you want to highlight in this email blast. They haven't had a lot of response since they sent this out of facilities requesting to have a template uploaded. So they are proactively going ahead and uploading this first option this week. It should be available by the end of the week in everyone's accounts. And then they'll follow up with uploading the second option as well. So what we're asking is that HR really partner with your business development and marketing team at your facility to help, work on this content, not just for Constant Contact, but also for any other social media. I did want to just spend a couple minutes and just highlight some other great tips for social media and using that for recruitment purposes. We're really trying to do a push to tell stories about our talented staff, kind of this employee spotlight, if you will. It's a great time to help educate your community on what those roles do, a little bit about, a day in the life of, for example, highlight mental health tech. What do they like best about their role? You can also use it to highlight service excellence awards, any kind of recognition with your staff, and of course, any other events that you're having. But this really shows your community what your culture is like, what it's like. It gives them a glimpse of what it'd be like to work there. And we get by far more likes and shares and comments on these posts when we're using our own staff. Because think of it, all their friends are wanting to comment and share it because they're just so proud to see a friend of theirs highlighted in that way. The other thing I just wanted to show really quick is a good example of what we're talking about. This example is from Rivendell in Arkansas, and they just did an employee spotlight on one of their MHTs that's been with them for quite some time, and just said a little bit about him. So this is just a quick snapshot of what we're talking about here. We have identified a handful of facilities that corporate marketing will be reaching out to work with you on doing an ad or a campaign like this. And then we'll use it as best practice examples for the rest of the field to be able to easily implement as well. But what we are, again, just asking for HR to really help partner with your local marketing team in identifying content for your social media ads. That's it from me.
Thanks, Kristen. We had one question come in, which is, who did the Constant Contact template come from? Where could they find that? So that would have come from our corporate business development. Is that right? To our business development directors?
Yeah, so that came from our corporate marketing and social media group, and it was sent out to the business development directors at the facility.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Yeah, no problem.
So Scott, I think we are back to you to give us some insights about Indeed, which obviously, as we know, one of our largest job boards, and certainly, in and of itself could be hours worth of detail.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, happy to kind of, be the end cap to what I think has been a great forum thus far. So we have about 20 minutes to go. And so we wanted to spend some time focusing on Indeed. And really this can be kind of a primer to the first training call that we're going to have with Indeed, which is scheduled for next Wednesday. So hopefully everyone received this invite. So we're going to have Indeed with us every third Wednesday for an hour. And this is really a great opportunity for a few reasons. Number one, the reps from Indeed that are partnered with us, in particular, Joe Gabriel, who's our national account manager, they're going to be doing some really good basic live demos. And so Wednesday, we're going to start with the basics. And so we're going to look at Indeed dashboards, and we're going to look at how to sponsor your own post, since it's a self-service process. And then looking at analytics and some other things to maximize your postings. So it's going to be a very informative training. And then the other really great aspect, I think, of this call is that we've built in some very purposeful Q&A. So it's not going to be the last 2 or 3 minutes of the session and you can only get through 1 or 2 questions. We're probably going to have a good 30 minutes devoted to Q&A with our partners from Indeed. And they are going to be available to answer the very kind of high level questions and the very, kind of minuscule down and dirty questions. So definitely encourage everyone to jump on to the first one next Wednesday. So with that kind of in mind, we thought, well, let's look at working Indeed Smart from UHS perspective, not from Indeed's perspective, because they have their own goals, of course. And so we want to just kind of set us up for some success going into that call. Prior, I want to just pull up, Ken had shared through the chat. This is one of our free organic posts. This happens to be from the Horsham Clinic in the greater Philadelphia area. And we wanted to just show that when you fill out the rec using the details tab and you put full time, that information carries over and it does display within the Indeed post. So it's not necessary to put it in the job title is kind of the main point. And like we've been saying, in the description is where you can add this position is full-time nights, 11 to 7. It's bonus eligible. Here's the payout information. So this would be appropriate to put in the description here. So just wanted to point that out, and thank you, Ken, for sending that out. So on the Indeed dashboard, this is my Indeed dashboard, and I have just 2 sponsored posts at the moment. One of the important things to know is that you can manage this real time. And that's important for 2 reasons. Number one, you can proactively see who's clicking and if you have any applicants, because sometimes I've noticed personally when I have a sponsored post that I won't always get that email that says, hey, you've got a new applicant, here's their resume. So sometimes I don't get the email and I want to make sure I don't miss anybody and time goes by and I'm not reaching out to them. So I will routinely go into my dashboard and say, oh, I've got a candidate waiting here. Let me take a look. And sometimes this will come and I'll see this even before I get the email in my inbox. So that's important in terms of managing your candidates timely. The other thing is that you can manage the spend or control the spend, as we like to say. And this may not come at the fore, I would think, in the Indeed training. And so as you can see here, I've got a DON position posted for Austin Lakes. And I paused this position just a few days ago. And the reason for that was we had a lot of candidates, not a lot of candidates, we had some candidates interview. And we had actually extended an offer to a candidate and we had a verbal acceptance. So at that point, I said, you know what, I feel good about this. Let me pause this and stop the spend. So we're not spending any more dollars where we don't need to. Unfortunately, the person just recently rescinded their acceptance. So I'm going to do this real time with everyone. I'm actually going to reopen this position. I'm going to open it back up because I do need to get some new candidates. And I might actually close this and start from scratch because it was a month ago that I first posted this. So I actually might even close this and start a brand new sponsored post to kick off some job alerts and get some new activity. So it's important that you actively go into your dashboard for these reasons to make sure you're not missing candidates and to control the spend. So if you are doing a sponsored post for mental health tech, you may only need to post it for 2 days, maybe even 1 day, and you'll get enough candidates where you've got enough to go through. You've got to screen them. You've got to get them interviewed. So you might want to put the pause. So you would go here and you would hit pause and that would stop the spend. So it temporarily pauses the post. You're not going to have any more dollars trigger, and you're not going to get candidates excited about a job that they're actually not going to get, and you're going to set them up for failure. So it's important that you really take the time to use your dashboard effectively. You can also go into any of your closed positions, and we took a look at this back in May, where you can get to your previously sponsored jobs and you can find candidates that perhaps were not selected, but you might want to engage with for a similar opening this time around. So the dashboard is something that you probably will visit frequently. And if you get the Indeed resume subscription that we looked at last month, this is where you would be able to access the database and take advantage of this really great tool as well. So if you think about kind of your daily routine, you're going to go into iCIMS, you're going to look for new candidates, you're going to get that opt-in email from SkillSurvey, you're going to see who's there, and then you're going to go to your Indeed dashboard and you're going to see who applied to your sponsored jobs and who might have responded to some of your messaging through Indeed resume. So those are the few couple things we wanted to pull out prior to the first training next Wednesday. So Maria, are there any questions coming over for Indeed?
Yes, it said, someone said we just hired a recruiter. Who sets up this access for them, or do we do it ourselves?
Awesome question. So what you need to do, if this is your first time getting an Indeed account, you want to make sure that your facility is set up, and you would go to Shaker. So we work with our partners with Shaker, and so they would put an insertion order in for you and get your account funded, and then you would get the login information to be able to access your account. And this is actually going to be a talking point on the Wednesday training, I believe, Ken, right? Talking about using smart insertion orders and kind of trying to set the right dollar amount.
Yeah, so we'll go over all those details. If you're new to Indeed Sponsored, we'll show you how to contact Shaker, how to set up your account, how to use your account, similar to what Scott just showed high level. We'll go into some details. We'll have a Q&A session and give an opportunity as well to understand the analytics around the sponsored job campaign. So we won't go into the analytics now, but during that call, we'll have that opportunity. And at one point too, Scott, I just wanted to make all of your jobs, when you post them through iCIMS, they go over to Indeed for free. That's considered organic. And then you're going to have, if you decide to put dollars towards a campaign, there'll be sponsored jobs. So Scott's showing one right now. This is a free job posting. And if you could just show on the left-hand side, if it was sponsored, they'll typically have that little triangle there called Easy Apply. So if Scott were to click on that competitor's job, that just costs them a couple dollars. So keep clicking on them, Scott. But no, just kidding. But just so you know that you can distinguish what a sponsored job is compared to an organic job, they'll typically have that Easy Apply functionality on there. So you will have two jobs out there when you do sponsor a job, so just keep that in mind. And then all of the candidates that apply to that sponsored job go into your dashboard. They do not go into iCIMS. The reason we set that up is because you're paying for those candidates. We don't want to have any drop-off, meaning that those individuals don't get into our ATS. It's a one-click apply. They're in your system right now. You can contact those candidates real time. Once you engage them, they're interested in the job, send them your iCIMS link to officially apply to the position.
And we did have another question that came in about how to set up the picture in Indeed, such as that one with Horsham where they had the picture of Horsham in the profile. So Scott, any feedback on how that gets done?
I believe that was a setup through Jibe, right, Ken?
Yeah, so I can talk to this. So if you were to click on the Horsham Clinic link right there, Scott, basically this is an Indeed company page. So we did a project a couple of years ago and uploaded all this information. So if you do not have this set up, it should be set up for all accounts. The only ones that might not be set up is some of the new hospitals that are coming online in 2021 and in the future. You can reach out to Jerry Calkins. Jerry Calkins is on our social media team. He has access to the parent account and can add your information. So if you type that in there, yeah, Jerry Calkins is the name. And Scott, if you could just go back, I don't know if there's an example of one of these that somebody doesn't have an account. They're very easy. You just go to company reviews at the top, and then you'll search. So at the top there, Scott, all the way at the top there. It should have a search. Just type in the name of your facility. It'll pull that information up. If you can't find that information, that means you don't have one. But we're pretty sure all of the live legacy facilities should have had this already created. And this could be another training that we'll do as well in regards to company reviews and some of the items around here. It really behooves you to stay on this stuff in regards to reviews, because when people click on these jobs, they want to learn about your facility, very similar to if they're buying a product on Amazon, they're going to look at the reviews, and it's really critical that our reviews are good or we might end up losing candidates, but that's another training. So just search right there on the company reviews and you'll be able to find your your company page.
Awesome. And you can easily see here too, the distinguish between a sponsored job, which is this housekeeper job happens to be sponsored, versus the resident advisor, which is that free organic scrape, because you'll see the easy apply there. The one thing we were talking about in terms of job titles, you can certainly experiment a little bit more with a sponsored job. So for example, you can add sign-on bonus information, you can add shift information that would distinguish it from, other positions in a search. The other thing that would do, so if you, let's say, instead of the organic registered nurse RN, you might have registered nurse behavioral health 11 to 7 for your sponsored job. That would certainly limit the amount of candidates that would not be interested in behavioral health and maybe not be looking for nights. And so you would not have those clicks and you would automatically be kind of managing your spend. So that's a good practice to kind of adopt if you really want to just kind of, again, focus on, looking at a shift and perhaps advertising some additional information.
Excellent. Well, with that, I think we have 9 minutes left. If there's anyone that wants to take themselves off mute and ask any other questions before we depart, or anything that we have not answered, or anything that, anyone else would like to share. So any other questions?
Hey, Maria, there was a question that just came in around shift. And Scott, if you could just pull up your requisitions and iCIMS, we did add a column. When you're looking at all of your open recs, it should have a shift column to easily understand where your positions stay. As far as having that on the dashboard, that might be a different conversation for Curt, but ultimately, if you're looking at all of your individuals or all of your requisitions, there is a shift column that you can see right there to easily look at all of your openings.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Ken. Any other questions from anyone, either in the chat? I think we had another new message just come in. Yes, so we had, can you discuss the requirements for SkillSurvey? Is it mandatory? What if someone doesn't have 4 references, for example, college students? Can someone start before the SkillSurvey is done? Well, I'll just take that part. I mean, SkillSurvey is highly recommended. I mean, we would want everyone to use this. I think, it is a, extremely powerful tool, because it is rating people against criteria that are important in the job. There's also a, one for entry level college graduates. They can enter professors or mentors or other folks that, even if it's their first job, they can enter more than 5 references. So if you're concerned that they may not get all the references to complete, I've always recommended, as I've had candidates do it, to say, enter 7 so that we can get 5 that respond, or the 4 that we need to respond to complete the survey. So Ken, any feedback from you on the SkillSurvey of things that I may have missed? Because it's an extremely powerful tool, not only for the fact that it rates people really, really closely to what are some of the strengths and weaknesses, but then also the power of that talent management pool that it then creates larger and larger.
Yeah, no, I think I can elaborate a little bit, Maria. I mean, I think it's really critical that we use this as a hiring decision tool, that it's not a checklist item. There's so much information that we can gather. Think about it. We're getting information that we're asking directly from that employee or soon-to-be employee, 360 feedback of past performance. So that information can really help us determine future performance. So it really needs to be 2 and 2. So you do need to have the anonymity. So 2 managers and 2 peer professionals, or the program will not keep the anonymity of that other individual. Therefore, we don't get all of the data that we need. So I encourage you, if you are using it for entry-level positions, that if they had a professor, if they have somebody that can provide a reference because they might not have the work history, that is completely fine to do so. Scott, if you could just jump into iCIMS real quick, or right on the dashboard, and go to the SkillSurvey section on the and click Learning Catalog. So just go up a little bit, click Learning Catalog right there. So we have a whole folder for SkillSurvey, and click that bottom one. It's called Best Practices. So we've mapped this out for you in regards to areas where you can better learn how to use this tool. And if you go down to the second page, Scott, it'll give you a key to show you, okay, if I'm hiring a general professional, you would select that for all individuals that might be in an exempt position, and it would give you a very good survey. And then if you're looking for entry-level individuals, and then right there where it says required acceptable references for candidates to enter SkillSurvey, gives you some additional information that will help when you're determining that information. So personally, we use this a lot during our interview process. So if you're at a point where you might have a second level interview and you've obtained this information, use this to be able to identify gaps potentially that you could have behavioral questions to get a better understanding if this is a candidate that you want to bring on board at your hospital or facility. So we've been using it for about 10 years now. I think it's an invaluable resource, not only for us to predetermine hires, but we're also capturing free candidates because those references are being put into our SkillSurvey source database.
Plus, it
Any
helps
other
keep
questions
us.
around SkillSurvey?
I was just going to add, it helps keep us compliant by getting the references done, documented, and in the employee file.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's very timely too, in regards to not playing phone tag with potential references. We're getting that information. Historically, it looks like our data is somewhere within 1 to 3 days. We're getting those references back instead of playing phone tag back and forth for an extended period of time.
Right. And I think it is pretty rare that we're not able to get a report generated, especially since text is now an option in addition to email. So if a reference would rather get the survey via text, they can certainly do that. And the response rate is very high.
So there's a question that came in: when should SkillSurvey be submitted? This is a pre-employment item. You should be doing this depending on the candidate. So, Scott's doing some highly skilled candidates that requires him to go after them, cold call, identify them. So he's courting them for the role. In that case, he might not send that skill survey until that individual is fully engaged and they've had a phone interview and they're had maybe a first round interview with a manager before he would extend that skill survey, but still pre-offer. If I have a candidate that's applied to the job, we're interested in that candidate, we've done an interview, maybe they've done a second phone interview, we're about to bring them into the facility, those individuals that have applied, they're engaged, they might be more willing to complete that skill survey earlier in the process. And I would encourage you to send it to them early in the process if you've already interviewed them and they're going to a second level. This way you can print that information and share it with that hiring manager. That hiring manager can use those details to create behavioral questions that focus on maybe some potential gaps in that report and the data that we receive to make a better hiring decision on that candidate. So definitely pre-hire, you should be using SkillSurvey.
Yep. Especially for management, director level, roles especially.
Excellent. Let's see. Any other questions that we have that have come in?
Maria, just real quick, and Scott, I don't know if you could jump out maybe to a candidate just to show folks real quick on SkillSurvey how they can re-ping a reference. I hear this a lot. So go up to the reference module on the left-hand side, and I don't know if you have a reference that's in progress, but what you can easily do is go right into the SkillSurvey, and you can actually re-ping that reference. So you launch it in iCIMS, But to go in there and find somebody, I don't know if you have an example, it doesn't look like it, but there is an opportunity for you to click a button and re-ping a reference. So for instance, see all these references that are listed? That's a great example. So there would be an orange button where it says action. All you need to do is click that button. It'll say, do you want to resend this reference? And the timestamp is there. You can see when you sent it to that individual. And if they're taking too long, you push the orange button and it'll resend an email or a text to that reference to prompt them to get that completed. So it can help you get those in a lot quicker if folks are held up in the referencing process. And this is easily accessible. So Scott, just go to iCIMS real quick. I'll show you how to get to your dashboard. So right there on the skill survey piece, click skill survey, takes you right into your individualized skill survey. And all of the candidates that you launched will be right there, and you'll be able to re-ping those candidates that you've sent a skill survey out to.
Excellent. And we did have somebody just mention if they could look at the how to manage sponsored postings one more time, just to show that. I know we're over time by a minute, but if we could show that briefly, Scott, that would be really helpful.
Yep, you bet. So when you log on to your Indeed dashboard, the first tab that it takes you to is jobs. So if you have sponsored jobs, they would be here. And then to the right is the job status. And so this is a simple just kind of toggle where there's three options. It would probably be defaulted to open, or then you can close it when you've filled it, or if you're no longer hiring for it, you would select that or pause. And it does give you one more question, and they want to know why you're pausing the position. So you could fill out one of these selections and then hit pause, and then you'd be all set. Very, very easy to do.
Thanks so much, Scott. I appreciate everybody's time, and we appreciate you joining, and we'll send out the recording of this session. That way, if there's anything that you did miss, you can review it, and also the resources on the constant contact. Thank you to Kristen and Curt, Scott, and Ken for all this helpful information, and we'll be talking with everybody soon. And join the Indeed call June 16th, 3:30 p.m. Very helpful. So please make every effort to attend that as well.
Awesome. Happy hiring, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
all. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.